Welcome to our channel. Today we'll explore 10 interesting facts about Canada. Did you know that Canada has the longest coastline in the world? From its stunning natural wonders to its rich cultural heritage, Canada is a treasure trove of fascinating facts waiting to be discovered. What other secrets does Canada hold within its borders? Well, before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our channel and comment down below with any interesting facts you know about Canada. All right, let's get started. Number 10, French and British heritage. Canada's history is a mix of French and British influences. It all started back in the 16th century with the French exploring and claiming land. Jacques Cartier put up a cross in Gaspé, Quebec in 1534, saying it belonged to the French king. But it wasn't until 1608 that Samuel de Champlain set up a permanent French settlement in Quebec, which marked the beginning of a lasting French presence. French folks started moving to Canada in the 17th century, mainly from the west and north of France. These early settlers laid the foundation for what we now call French Canadian. They spread across North America, setting up communities and towns, and over time they became deeply connected to their new home, shaping its culture, language, and identity. Then came the British conquest in 1760, when they took over New France, which included Quebec and Ontario. But it wasn't until about 25 years later that a significant number of English-speaking people settled in the region. This delay allowed French Canadian culture and traditions to keep going strong even under British rule. The term French Canadian originally referred to people with a shared ancestry, religion, and language, but as time passed, it became a broader identity. The word Quebecois came into use, focusing more on the territory and language rather than just ancestry or religion. It became a way for people to identify with Quebec and its unique culture, regardless of their background. Number 9, Fur Trade Era. The fur trade era was a big part of how Canada started. People traded animal skins, especially beaver fur, for things from Europe. Many groups were involved, like the Indigenous peoples, Europeans, and big companies. The Hudson's Bay Company, or HBC, was a huge player. They started in 1670 and set up trading posts all over Canada. These posts were where they collected and traded fur. The HBC was everywhere, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific. There were special people called voyageurs and conneurs des bois. They were French-Canadian and really good at moving fur around in canoes. They went through tough places and bad weather to get fur to the trading posts. They were super important for the fur trade to work. Indigenous peoples were a big part of the fur trade too. They knew how to trap animals and where to find them. Europeans teamed up with the indigenous groups like the Cree, Ojibwe, and Huron to get fur. They traded fur for things like metal, tools, and guns. Beaver fur was really popular because it was warm and didn't get wet easily. People in Europe loved wearing hats made from beaver fur. These hats were a big deal and showed that you had money. The fur trade changed the wild places in Canada and fashion in Europe. There were a lot of fights between European countries during the fur trade. They all wanted control of the best fur areas. The French and British were big rivals, and they fought a big war over it. In the end, the British won and took over places like Quebec. But by the late 1700s, the fur trade started to have problems. They hunted too many beavers, and people stopped wanting beaver hats. Also, many indigenous people got sick from diseases brought by Europeans. Number 8, vast and diverse geography. Canada has some amazing features in its landscape. First up, we've got the Rocky Mountains. They're big, stretching from British Columbia to Alberta. Picture this: snow-capped peaks, deep valleys, and beautiful lakes. Banff and Jasper National Parks call these mountains home, and they're stunning spots to explore. Then there are the Coast Mountains along the edge of British Columbia. These bad boys rise up dramatically from the Pacific Ocean. Think glaciers, fjords, and lush rainforests. It's like nature turned the volume up to 11 here. Moving on to the prairies, they cover parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. These are the flatlands with golden wheat fields as far as the eye can see. Plus, there are cute little towns sprinkled around. The prairies aren't just pretty, they're a big deal for farming and help Canada's economy in a major way. Now let's talk about forests. Canada's got a ton of trees, covering about a third of the world's boreal forest. It's like a giant green carpet from Newfoundland to Yukon. Spruce, pine, and fir trees are the VIPs here, and they're home to cool animals like moose, wolves, and bears. And don't forget the Great Bear Rainforest out west with its ancient trees and sneaky coastal wolves. When it comes to water, Canada's got it in spades. Lakes? Try over 2 million of them. And the Great Lakes? Well, they're kind of a big deal, forming the largest group of freshwater lakes globally. Then there's the Mackenzie River, the longest one in Canada, snaking through wild landscapes and supporting all sorts of life. Up north, it's all about the Arctic tundra. It's cold, treeless, and totally gorgeous. Polar bears, Arctic foxes, and birds that travel thousands of miles to hang out here call it home. And let's not forget the islands and coastlines. Canada's got over 125,000 miles of rugged shoreline with cool spots like Baffin Island and Newfoundland's dramatic cliffs. Number 7, strong bilateral relationship with the U.S. Canada and the United States are like next-door neighbors with the longest international border in the world, stretching over 5,525 miles. It's a huge line that connects all sorts of different places, from the rocky shores of Maine to the calm lakes of Ontario. Basically, it shows how close Canada and the U.S. are both in geography and history. Their economic relationship is super strong, with about $2.6 billion worth of stuff crossing the border every single day. That's a lot of trade happening, and it's good for both countries. They trade all sorts of things like cars, machines, energy stuff, and food. Plus, Canadian companies invest a ton in the U.S., making jobs and helping local economies, while American businesses do the same in Canada. When it comes to energy, Canada is a big supplier of stuff like oil, natural gas, and electricity to the U.S. It's a partnership that helps keep both countries going smoothly. There's a lot of cultural stuff going on between Canada and the U.S. Millions of Americans visit Canada every year to check out cool places like national parks and big cities, and Canadians love visiting the U.S. too, from places like New York City to the Grand Canyon. Universities from both countries team up for research, and students get to study abroad. Plus, the entertainment scenes in Hollywood and Canada influence each other a lot. Actors, musicians, and comedians from both sides of the border make it big in each other's countries. When it comes to dealing with big global issues, Canada and the U.S. are like buddies. They work together on defense, sharing secrets, and doing military stuff together. They also team up to fight climate change and deal with health stuff like during the COVID-19 pandemic. And there's one thing called the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA. It's like a fancy trade deal that replaced NAFTA, the old one. It makes sure trade is fair, workers are treated right, and the environment is taken care of. So basically, it helps out everyone in North America. Number 6, maple syrup capital of the world. Yeah, maple syrup isn't just a sweet topping to pour on your pancakes. It's a big deal in Canada. Think of it as a tradition that's been around forever. You see, folks have been tapping maple trees, collecting the sap and boiling it down into syrup for ages. In Canada, well, it's like the headquarters for this syrupy goodness, especially in Quebec. Quebec, which is the biggest province in Canada, takes the crown as the maple syrup capital of the world. It's like the VIP section for syrup lovers. Here's why. First off, Quebec is packed with sugar maple trees. These aren't your average trees. They're the ones that make the best syrup. And when spring rolls around, these trees start dripping sap like nobody's business. Now, the way they make syrup in Quebec is pretty old school. They drill little holes in the trees, stick in spouts, and let the sap drip into buckets or tubes. It's a real hands-on process that needs a lot of patience and skill, and the magic really happens during what they call the sugaring off-season, which usually kicks off in late February and wraps up in early April. That's when the sap flows like crazy and the sugar shacks come to life. Speaking of sugar shacks, these are like cozy cabins nestled in the woods where all the syrup action goes down. During sugaring off-season, they're buzzing with activity. You can watch the sap turn into syrup right before your eyes, and the air smells heavenly like sweet, sweet maple. Now, turning sap into syrup isn't as simple as heating it up. It takes hours of boiling to get it just right. And once it's good to go, they grade it based on its flavor and color, from light and delicate to dark and rich. Then it's bottled up and ready to go. But Quebec isn't just about making syrup. They know how to have fun with it, too. During syrup season, you can munch on maple taffy, which is basically hot syrup poured into snow, creating a chewy, sweet treat. Plus, they throw epic maple syrup festivals and pancake breakfasts, sleigh rides, and live tunes. And Quebec doesn't keep all the syrup to themselves. They share the love with the whole world. You can find Quebec syrup making its way to breakfast tables from Paris to Tokyo. Number 5. Wildlife Wonderland and National Parks. Let's take a journey through Canada's wild places, where we can meet some incredible animals. First up, we have the moose. Those big antlered mammals that you might have seen in pictures. They're the kings of the forest here. You can spot them chilling around wetlands, lakes, and rivers, especially in parks like Gros Morne and Cape Breton Highlands National Parks. Then there are the turtles, which you can find hanging out in Kejimkujik National Park in Nova Scotia. It's like a paradise for them with all the plants and bugs to munch on. There are 3 types there: painted turtles, snapping turtles, and blandings turtles. Keep your eyes peeled for these ancient reptiles soaking up the sun. Now, if you're up for seal spotting, head over to Kutchibougac National Park in New Brunswick. There you'll find gray seals chilling by the St. Lawrence River and all over Atlantic Canada. Fun fact, they can get pretty hefty, up to 3 meters long and weighing as much as 450 kilograms. Now, who hasn't heard of the common loon? You know, the bird on Canada's $1 coin? Well, they've got this haunting call that's just beautiful. You can listen to them at Lake Wabazayanki in La Marcerie National Park in Quebec. And let's not forget the beavers, these busy little critters. Yeah, you can find them doing their thing in La Maurice National Park too. They're famous for building dams and lodges, so keep an eye out for their handiwork as you hike around. By the way, did you know Canada has a whopping 37 national parks and 10 national park reserves? They cover a whole lot of land, around 336,343 square miles, showcasing everything from mountains to glaciers. Number 4, snake capital of the world. The Narcisse snake dens, located about 6 kilometers north of Narcisse in Manitoba, are home to tens of thousands of red-sided garter snakes during the winter months. These snakes make up the largest concentration of their kind in the world. When spring comes, the snakes emerge from their cozy underground dens, which are actually limestone caverns, ready to start their annual rituals. Around 70,000 red-sided garter snakes slither out, creating a mesmerizing spectacle. The snake pits become a lively scene of mating rituals, with males putting on courtship dances to impress the females. It's quite a sight and attracts visitors from far and wide. However, not all years have been easy for the snakes. In 1999, severe weather conditions took a toll on the population, leading to the death of tens of thousands of snakes before they could reach their winter shelters. This incident raised concerns about the snake's migratory path, especially as it crosses Highway 17, posing risks of road accidents. To protect the snakes, Manitoba Hydro and volunteers stepped in, stepping up measures like snow fences and motorist awareness campaigns. These efforts aim to guide the snakes safely under the highway and reduce the chances of them getting run over by passing vehicles. Hey, if you're interested in witnessing this unique natural phenomenon, plan your visit during late April to early May to see the snakes emerging, or in early September to observe their return to their dens. Number 3, national sport of Canada. Hockey isn't just a game in Canada, it's a big deal. Imagine frozen ponds, chilly air, and the sound of skates gliding across the ice. That's where it all began. Back in the 1800s, hockey started evolving from old stick and ball games in the UK. But Canada is where it truly took off. Picture the scene in 1875 at Montreal's Victoria Skating Park, where the first indoor hockey team was played. The players had basic gear and a lot of determination. That game set the stage for modern hockey. And then there's the Stanley Cup, hockey's ultimate prize. It's been awarded to top teams since 1893, making it a symbol of excellence in the sport. Hockey isn't just about playing, it's part of Canadian identity. From small towns to big cities, hockey rinks are special places where dreams come alive, and Saturday nights are all about Hockey Night in Canada. Families gather to watch their favorite teams, munching on popcorn and soaking in the excitement. The World Junior Championships are a big deal too. It's when young players show off their skills, representing Canada with pride. And let's not forget the NHL, where Canadian players become legends. The playoffs are a national event with fans decked out in team gear and cheering their hearts out. Outdoor hockey events like the Pond Hockey Classic take us back to the sport's roots. Number 2, Poutine Powerhouse. Poutine, a beloved Canadian treat, has won over the hearts and stomachs across the globe. It's simple but oh so indulgent dish that starts with crispy fries, adds squeaky cheese curds, and smothers it all in rich gravy. Let's unravel the tasty tale behind poutine's rise to fame. In the late 1950s, small snack bars in Quebec were the birthplace of poutine. Imagine the cozy atmosphere with the smell of freshly fried potatoes wafting through the air. Locals instantly fell for the combination of fries, cheese curds, and savory gravy, making it a popular snack choice. Though there's friendly debate about where exactly poutine originated, a few contenders emerge. Café Ideal in Warwick, Leroy Giuseppe in Drummondville both claim to have been the early pioneers of this messy delight, adding their unique twists to the recipe. The word poutine likely comes from the English term pudding, describing a mixed-up mess of food. Regardless of its etymology, poutine quickly became a culinary icon, spreading from rural Quebec to urban centers like Quebec City and Montreal. Today, you can find poutine everywhere, from fine dining restaurants to fast food joints, with each place putting its own spin on the classic recipe. And it's not just confined to Canada. Poutine has gained international fame, with food trucks in cities like New York, London, and Tokyo serving up their interpretations of this comforting dish. Number 1, fourth largest francophone city. Montreal, a bustling city located in Quebec, Canada, is a fascinating mix of French and English influences. While other languages are spoken, French remains central to its identity, with over half the population citing it as their first language. Its history is rich, dating back thousands of years to indigenous settlements and later French colonization, shaping its architecture, cuisine, and vibrant spirit. With a population of 1.6 million, Montreal ranks among the world's largest French-speaking cities, drawing francophones from around the globe. Its cultural scene is thriving with festivals, theaters, and museums celebrating French art and music. Yet Montreal's linguistic landscape is evolving, with a significant English-speaking minority and a mosaic of diverse communities contributing to its vibrancy. The city's charm lies in its contrasts, blending old-world charm with modernity, and offering a symphony of languages along its cobblestone streets. Montrealers embrace their linguistic diversity, seamlessly switching between French, English, and other tongues, reflecting resilience and shared humanity. In Montreal, tradition meets innovation, and cultural fusion is celebrated. It's a city where language acts as a bridge, uniting people from different backgrounds. Whether saying bonjour or hello, Montreal invites visitors to embrace its unique blend of cultures and revel in the beauty of linguistic diversity. Canada's fascinating tapestry boasts numerous captivating facets, from its vast landscapes to its multicultural society. did any of these facts surprise you? Or are there other intriguing aspects of Canada you'd like to explore further? What aspect of Canadian culture or history intrigues you the most? Do let us know in the comments below.